waste your money for 90% of the startups you invest in just doesn't sit right with me, right? I very quickly realized that I could go an entire week without seeing another woman, many weeks without any other type of diversity. Realize the average sort of time to return and properly exit a VC fund now stands at 16 years. That's insane, right? The goal is not to get VC funding, right? The goal is to build a business. And so if you're not in it with your full heart, we probably won't invest. And there's a very strict no assholes rule, which you can do when it's your own business, right? Whatever it looks like. Ooh!
Welcome to another episode of the Found Podcast. So for episode 3, we sat down with Alina Klarner. Alina is the founding partner and GP at Impact Shakers, which is an early stage 18 million investment fund that backs founders tackling climate, social inclusion, and impact infrastructure across Europe. So we had a 1-hour discussion with Alina, talking from everything from about the definition of impact, what she looks like in teams that they invest in, how they're using the flywheel of community and ecosystem building to really fuel their investment process, the different impact hotspots across Europe, and a bunch of other topics also about her journey. So how she lived everywhere from Singapore to Russia to London, and also how she came from a PE background, working 10 years in private equity, and now investing in impact. So it was a really fun discussion. Kirilo and I had a blast, so I hope you enjoyed too. Today we're joined by Alina Klarner. Alina is the founding partner and general partner of Impact Shakers Ventures, a 17 million early-stage VC fund backing diverse founders tackling climate, social inclusion, and impact infrastructure across Europe. In 2020, she left private equity, sold her belongings, wrote her first check for 850 pounds through Coralus to support 5 female founders, and started her journey as an angel investor. Joining Impact Shakers, founded in 2018 by Belgian entrepreneur Janka Breekman, she went on to co-found both the microfund in 2022 and the full VC fund in 2024, signing the final fund documents 9 months pregnant. Today, Impact Shakers has invested in 25 startups across 8 countries, catalyzing nearly 5 times the capital deployed through co-investors, including General Catalyst, World Fund, and European family offices. So the fund's 3 verticals are climate tech, inclusion tech, I actually never heard that before, inclusion tech, and impact infrastructure. Alina is the force behind the Impact Shakers Angel Program, a 50 diverse-led impact startups annual list, and supported the launch of the Zebra Investment 9 in Hamburg, a fast-growing format that generated 250K on the spot commitments for its second edition. She is based in Hamburg, and that's why we're having you.
Thank you for having me.
How does it feel hearing that your bio read in front of you like this?
Yeah, it's always a bit embarrassing to hear it, huh? You make it sound far better than I would.
Yeah, I zoomed through it, but maybe to pick up on that 2020 moment where you left private equity and sold your belongings and packed up for the impact.
Yeah, it's a bit dramatic. I didn't sell everything. I sold enough to write that first. I consider it an angel ticket to really take that leap, because I think putting the first euro, pound, dollar on the table is the hardest, and it almost doesn't matter whether it's 1 or a million. It's sort of that first step, right? And it wasn't a moment, it was a process. So I basically started, I had advised private equity for a really long time, working at PwC, doing big transactions, M&A, financing, refinancing, all the way to restructuring and insolvency, and sort of got to the point where I was in the companies doing hands-on work as interim finance director, transformation director, and it felt like I was doing all the work, and the private equity guys got to make all the decisions. So I thought, okay, that's where I got to go. Joined a private equity fund and loved working with the companies, all fast-growing SaaS companies, B2B, 10 to 100 million turnover, and I was looking after the European portfolio, and I was working with the companies on everything from strategy to go-to-market, finance and ops, people, M&A integration. But I very quickly realized that I could go an entire week without seeing another woman, many weeks without any other type of diversity. And also there was just zero interest in even ESG at that point. So I kind of had a choice to make, to spend the next 10 years banging my head against the wall and hoping that things would change, or do something about it myself. And patience is not my strong suit. So I decided to do what I could sort of immediately grasp, and started to angel invest in all of the things that I wasn't getting in my day job. So diverse founders and impactful solutions. And through this really got hooked on this concept of using entrepreneurship for positive innovation, and to sort of invest in impact and impact entrepreneurship as a concept. And it just all spiraled from there.
And then you met Janka.
We met actually during COVID on LinkedIn in 2021.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, those were the times when we were all locked up in our homes, right? So we met on LinkedIn. I was at the time looking for angel investments. She was building this amazing thing with impact shakers. We started talking. We spent a year, actually, what we now call co-founder dating, figuring out sort of what we wanted to build. And it was perfect timing, because I was seeing so many phenomenal founders as an angel that I thought, I can never do enough as an angel. I need more capital to deploy. And she had started Impact Shakers in 2018, doing ecosystem building and programs, accelerators, incubators, investor readiness programs. And was sort of getting to the point where she thought all of the advice and the mentoring is great, but to really move something, we need to deploy capital. So it was just, perfect timing. We spent a year figuring out how we would do it. And then in 2022, I actually joined forces.
So I've been in the impact space, or I would say adjacent to it, for some years. And I know Impact Shakers by brand. So you're, I think, very active and well known in the impact investing space in Europe. Maybe tell us a bit about the fund, the model, how it works, because it has a bit of a unique flavor to it, yeah?
Yeah, so really an ecosystem, right? And that has two aspects. It's building the ecosystem. So this is the programs, the newsletters, the sharing of interesting startups to watch, funds raised, the events, the collaborations, and then there's the capital aspect. And this is the microfund and the fund. And we set it up in that way, really purposefully, because both fuel each other, right? So you get this flywheel of all of the parts interacting and bringing in different perspectives, different people, getting people to actually collaborate, rather than it's sort of being the pitch deck with all the logos. It's a real human collaboration that happens, and so it's good for us, it's good for the ecosystem, and everything is in that spirit of collaboration, really.
It's only in Europe? Your scope?
For now, so continental, the continent, right? So we do UK as well, okay. But this is where our network is strongest. This is where we're based. So this is the focus for now.
Alina, I'm really curious to hear your definition of impact. What is impact to you? How do you define impact startups? Because to me, it seems like it's such a big bubble, and so many startups would fall under this bubble, right? Or like under this term. So how do you guys define impact in Impact Shakers?
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone defines it their own way, right? Mm-hmm. There is no one version of impact. What we look for is environmental and social innovation. And we look for solutions that have a systemic aspect, so that have the potential to positively contribute to systems change, rethinking processes, sectors, ways of doing things, and often at the intersection either of sectors or of social and environmental. So really embracing the complexity of it all, and based on really always lived experience. Can be personal, can be professional, but people that have lived a certain problem for many, many years. And this is not an opportunistic thing. Hardware, climate tech is the new wave now, let me build something. This is really people that are working on their life's mission to drive positive change.
Mm-hmm. So what is like more important to you when you are looking at those startups who want to build in impact? Do you look primarily for the impact that they're going to create, or for the business model that is behind their startup?
Both.
Yeah.
And I think I really think it's a mistake to always, so I'm a bit tired of always talking about impact or profit, impact or returns. I really think that this is just a mindset shift that needs to happen, that in order to be successful 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, this is no longer something that we can negotiate. This is a non-negotiable, and it just needs to be both.
So you mentioned the sort of trends that sometimes come and go, right? So for instance, climate, okay, was, I guess we can say the wave has passed now in climate tech, right, as a label. And so some people hop on waves or trends, but impact is a macro phenomenon, right? Like, or climate is a macro problem that is not going to go away. What's your take on sort of the branding aspect of impact and climate tech as a hype a little bit, or as a VC trend that is now being called, I guess, resilience, or it's out of flavor yet the startups are still there. It's a branding issue.
So I think you're right in mentioning the aspect of labels. I think the labels change, but fundamentally what is being built underneath doesn't so much, right? Because like I said, it's people with conviction that are solving a problem that they feel deeply and that they care deeply about. So it almost doesn't matter what you call it. And I think the labeling is important for how we present impact to the outside world, because ultimately the idea is that you bring in many more people, and this is how we build our economy, right? This is how we build the future that we actually want to live in and want to fall in love with. So finding the right words to attract other people to this, I think, is important. In the end, there have been many waves, right? There was sort
Clean
of
tech,
CSR, clean tech,
ESG.
sustainability. Exactly. And it keeps evolving, and it will continue to evolve.
Yeah. So what's the state of impact nowadays, right? Like because it is, everybody has their own definition, but it is, I would say, fairly well understood and documented or mapped ecosystem. What's your sort of, you have your finger on the pulse, what does it look like in 2026? Has this I would say understanding that impact shouldn't be dissociated from business relevance and actual, solid business models.
Not an
Are we
afterthought.
past this?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the amount of capital flowing in that space, right? Like, what's this sort of temperature check from your view there?
So to me, it's a phase or period of growing up. We had a phase of a lot of idealism and people building to do the right thing and expecting their potential customers, to do the right thing just for doing the right thing. And now we're at a point where you can't lead with that anymore, and people have lots of other worries, whether that's businesses, politicians, entrepreneurs, whatever it looks like.
Oh, wow. Okay. That would be a great,
that's impact,
yeah.
almost on my head.
This is real impact indeed.
That's gonna make the reels.
That's one I
Bloopers. The first blooper of the Found podcast.
Right.
Did you see today that they announced AI House, the House of AI?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so
Okay.
a new project right across the street.
Okay.
So a physical hub with a community and weekly events, and
Very cool.
with a guy that co-founded OMR,
All right.
who's also got connection in San Francisco, and the guy who, the founder of Wonder Mobility,
Okay.
and the AI Beavers, like a local community that does
Cool.
like hackathons and stuff. And
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, there's Hamburg is just one milestone after the next, kind of momentum building
It's
is how I
building
would
up, yep.
call it. It
Yeah.
seems like there's just like more and more initiatives,
Yeah.
more events,
Mhm.
podcasts
Yeah.
appearing randomly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of encouraging, I feel like. But we'll get into that later.
All right.
Yeah, you might not remember this, but in January, you published 10 predictions for 2026 for impact and European tech. One of them was social sector investing is on life support, but community, belonging, and human connection are the sleeper hits. So what's your take on community building as a business lever, right? So you're talking to two community builders here that do it just for the love of the game, but as a business strategy, right?
So
that
you
mentioned
should
the
answer
flywheel.
this question. Right?
I want to hear your answer. You're the guest here.
So I think we're at a point where again you're getting this like extreme influence and importance of AI and the digital world. So that my feeling is that people are more and more actually craving community, human interaction. You see it more and more in the VC and investor community as well, that people are doing more in-person stuff again, smaller events, actually facilitating real human connection and conversation. And so I think fundamentally the people that are able to do this as part of their business as well are going to create much more sustainable business models. And maybe they are not the unicorns that raise $2 billion at a $10 billion valuation before they even start. But I think fundamentally these are businesses that can drive a lot of positive change and build really sound businesses financially.
Yeah, can't really replace in-person events or interaction. I mean, to build trust, right? It's just beyond the screen, behind the screen is very hard. How does that look like for you at Impact Shakers? I mean, I know you're remote, but you're very remote, your setup.
Yeah.
So do you have IRL events on a regular basis? Do you have local like chapter structure where your portfolio days, maybe where your companies meet? Like, how does that look like?
Yeah, so we do a lot of it, and mostly it's structured around, I'm going to call it special occasions. So we get the whole team together once or twice a year at a sort of retreat kind of event where we all live in one house and work together for 5 days and actually do really deep work together. And it's a different quality of work, right, that you can do when you're actually sitting opposite each other. And then we do it with subsections of the teams around events. So example, there's a few events coming up in Barcelona, so Joncha and I are going to be there. Our head of impact and systems change, Suzanne, is there. Our go-to-market operating partner is there. So this will be an opportunity for us to work together. And then we've started doing what we call residencies with our startups as well, where we basically spend a week in a city and invite 4 or 5 startups that live sort of there or around there to come and work with us and spend some time socially as well.
Very cool. You mentioned Barcelona, right? And Impact Shakers, you guys invested into 2 startups from Barcelona, from Spain, as far as I know, right? What's pulling you south? What's going on in Spain?
It's a really vibrant ecosystem. There is a lot happening, a lot of ambition as well. For us, it's super important that there's diverse founders building stuff as well, right? But it just really feels like there is a lot of energy going into impact, going into building, creating. And so, we've been really impressed with the founders that we have found there. And so our last 3 investments actually have been in Spain.
All right, already 3. So looking broader at the European map, which country would you say is doing the best in terms of creating impact startups and focusing on that aspect? Is there like any specific country would you say that are doing the best job out there?
I think different countries have different strengths in terms of sort of what is being built and funded as well. I think this is important, right? What can you get funding for? The UK still is doing a phenomenal job. The impact ecosystem there is just more mature than we have anywhere else in Europe. So a lot of brilliant founders come out of there. There's a lot of innovative types of financing. Just a lot of people who have embraced this way of innovating and building. I think Germany really has seen a lot of larger funds being raised in this sort of climate tech, deep tech space. So this is where the capital is flowing, and this is what you're seeing more and more of as well, right? Plus, you now have some of the public institutions starting to think about how you then bridge from Series A on to actually get this to scale. You have Spain, where there is also a lot of interesting stuff happening in AI and material sciences. So we invested in a bioplastic startup called B0. We invested in a startup that is doing GPU optimization called Fineria. We've recently signed Umara, who's doing waste plant design and operations. So it's a really broad spectrum as well, but really interesting, innovative spaces that are attracting interesting capital.
Mm-hmm. When are you investing into a startup? What are like the first things that you look for when you're talking to these founders? How do they convince you basically to invest in them?
The people.
Where
actually, and this surprises me every time, but a lot of times, so we do an initial call usually to meet the founders because everything is remote, right? So unless we meet them at an event or something, it's a 30-minute call. And we spend easily the first 15, 20 minutes actually telling life stories and doing introductions. Who are you? Where have you come from? Why are you building this business? And why is this important to you? And the majority of founders say that this is the first time they've ever actually told their story in a quote unquote pitch meeting. So this is, it's super important to us because building a startup is hard. And so if you're not in it with your full heart, we probably won't invest.
Yeah. It's funny because with one of our guests, Iskender, who was our first guest in the podcast, we were talking about the importance of storytelling, right? And it appears that, to me especially, that when you're early stage, when you're starting building your startup, that the most important skill probably is just being able to communicate your story, to articulate your vision, right? Because this is importantly the thing that is going to attract also capital, but also the attention that you need as a startup founder, right? So how would you say that what you see right now is that people should need to work more on their like storytelling skills, especially when they're like starting their journey as a startup founder?
I don't know, because this sounds it sounds very American to me, right? It's that sort of telling the big stories and selling the dream, and I don't think that's really how the European startup ecosystem works right now. So for me, it's much more about authenticity, actually bringing across why you are doing it and what your mission is and what your passion is for it, that rather than it being a sort of the way you described it, a sort of a formal skill that you develop. So it's much more, again, about the human connection. And because as a VC fund, you are committing to us and we're committing to you for 5, 7, maybe 10 years, right? It's a really long time. It's like getting married. So I kind of want to know that I want to work with this person for the next 10 years and vice versa.
Yeah, I love your take because that's so controversial. You know, you get told a lot that, okay, we need to copy that American model. We need to get better at selling stuff and, you know, like creating this FOMO. And especially probably, I don't know, would you say that is just like an impact thing? So where you rely more on this human connection as opposed to like other startup sectors, you know, where still if you're building a SaaS company or if you're building an AI, you would still hear a lot that you need to create that FOMO, right, to raise capital.
And I'm not saying that you don't need to create FOMO, right? Like there is still a way of quote unquote playing the game, of sort of responding to what people would like to hear and sort of understanding how a fund works and what people invest in. And at the end, it's people investing in people. So you need to captivate the people sitting across from you. But I really think that the European ecosystem is it's just not the US. If you look at sort of the exits, 90% of exits in Europe are less than 100 million. So this idea that everyone is going to be a unicorn and all VC can work in that way, I just don't think it works unless we accept that we're going to send everyone over to the US at some point. And I'm sure you're aware of it as well. There's a big conversation around how we can keep more of the innovation in Europe as well, right? And so I think some of this needs to change. VC needs to also realize the average sort of time to return and properly exit a VC fund now stands at 16 years.
Oh, wow.
That's insane, right? So what can we do to actually accelerate the exits? What can we do to have a portfolio where it's not nine startups fail and one succeeds, but rather a much smaller number fails and actually we have a much larger number that quote unquote succeeds, right? That generates exits, that gets there quicker maybe. So I think there are a lot of things that that we need to challenge.
Yeah, I like that angle because it's true. The American way is almost to optimize for like borderline autistic, chip on the shoulder, like childhood trauma is almost, right? When they analyze the unicorn founders, and you hear almost that narrative percolate in Europe as well. Though, kind of agree with what you said that it's fundamentally like the European way, let's call it, or the way that people take here is quite different when it comes to.
And this may be an impact investor's take as well, but the idea that you basically waste your money for 90% of the startups you invest in just doesn't sit right with me, right? And so this idea that you need to raise seven rounds of VC or other funding before you reach any kind of business model that can scale and is profitable, I don't know if that's how we should be building businesses.
How do you see we can change the situation that are less than 90% of startups fail? What is needed to let those startups achieve success faster, quicker, become more successful in what they're doing?
Actually, much more of a focus on the business that you're building, much less of a focus on seeing getting VC funded as the be all and end goal. The goal is not to get VC funding, right? The goal is to build a business. And I think we may have to remind ourselves of that a little bit. And it may be some of my private equity sort of background playing into this, because we always provided a lot of operational support across go-to-market, product, strategy. I talked about it in the beginning. So equipping the founders with what they need in the beginning as well, to make sure that not everyone needs to make the same mistakes again, but they can also sort of learn from other founders, learn from the ecosystem, learn from the programs, the accelerators, the organizations, the investors, etc.
A very community-driven approach. I like that. Yeah.
So you mentioned the energy in Barcelona. You obviously spent a lot of time in London and Singapore as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Lived
in
Singapore
Russia,
for 6
I mean,
months.
so
Yes.
you've been all over. Now you moved to Hamburg full time a year ago. What's the energy like here? What's your, you have almost still I would say an external perspective on the local ecosystem. What does that look like when it comes to impact investing?
Yeah, and my word is emerging.
Emerging, right? Up and comer, challenger.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like it's a place with lots of opportunity, lots of capital, lots of innovation, but also that has historically been rather conservative. So I think it's really exciting to see that there's all of these initiatives now coming up, like Impossible Founders, like the House of AI that you mentioned, like the Zebra Investment Night, all of these, like the Life Science Note. There's so many initiatives that are actually happening that energize the whole ecosystem and that are getting people excited. So I think, it feels like a really interesting time to be in Hamburg and to contribute to the ecosystem.
So maybe one impact company that's not in your portfolio that maybe more people in Germany should know about.
Yeah, so I was recently at an event co-organized by Encourage Ventures and La Tech Hamburg, both also amazing ecosystem players in Hamburg. And I met Joanna, who is one of the co-founders of Ligno Pure. And she is just a powerhouse of a scientist and an entrepreneur. Unfortunately, the business is a little bit too far advanced for us. So I wish I had met her a few years earlier. But they're basically using lignin as an alternative to fossil materials. So super exciting business, super successful, building like so many startups in the region under the radar.
Tell us about the other one that you had also randomly came up in
so
Kiel,
right?
Yeah,
exactly. I was invited by Alex Roth and the guys who run a lot of the things in Kiel, and there's basically a battery factory who are doing innovative battery manufacturing with lighter materials, faster charge and discharge, and a bunch of other advantages. And they had basically, they built a gigafactory somewhere in the sticks in northern Germany that probably no one has ever heard of. And the last round they raised was a 30 million rounds, and you compare that to the 500 million or $500 million, whatever, that went into Northvolt. And these guys actually have a business that is profitable, using the funding to reach the next, to level up every time. 2 engineers that built it quietly, successfully. And I think this is, it's really exciting. I really want to invest in more of these kinds of businesses as well.
Do you need the European way, right? Like not being super loud, but still focusing on the core business, right? And making sure that it works.
Really delivering,
But is that what we call a zebra? So what's the... I mean, you said profitable, but
maybe.
Still VC funded, but less flashy than a colorful rainbow unicorn.
Yeah. I always struggle a bit with the labels because there is a whole zoo out there right now, right? And I think maybe we call it a zebra.
All right. Maybe in terms of your go-to events, right? So you travel all over Europe, various, the calendar's packed, especially nowadays. Change Now in Paris, Impact Days in Vienna, Slush in Helsinki, Impact Festival in Frankfurt. So do you have one that you're like, this is your annual can't miss event that you're always there and you think people should pay attention to?
So it changes a bit every year and over time. Two that I'm really looking forward to this year is the Catapult Future Fest that is coming up at the end of May in Amsterdam, and also the Drop. Just because the format is really cool. There's no panels. I think we should stop panels. There's so many people that have
subscribed
that have interesting stuff to contribute. That it should be much more of a conversation, right? So those are two that I'm looking forward to. And then there's lots of smaller local events that I'm finding really exciting as well, because it's smaller groups. You can actually interact with people and really get to know them a bit better.
And so Kirilo mentioned, like, are there any countries that are like super strong impact wise? I feel like the Nordics are kind of known for that, right? You mentioned the Drop in Malmö, right? Is it? So Sweden feels to me like it's kind of naturally sort of a thriving impact ecosystem.
Yeah, but then you have a lot in the Netherlands as well, Belgium. So there is lots of these pockets, which is kind of why I said everyone has a bit of their specialism, and so there is really lots of interesting stuff happening across Europe. And again, it's a very European way. Everyone contributes something slightly different, but it builds this beautiful ecosystem, right?
Yeah. What? So you spent, is it a decade in private equity? So that's your
advising and working in,
So, what are the main? I mean, there's probably several, but like you would say the biggest differences between your days in PE and now being an impact VC.
The biggest difference is now that it's my own business. So I get to choose what we do, who we work with, and there's a very strict no assholes rule. Which you can do when it's your own business, right? So that is, the biggest difference. We get to choose who we work with, I think.
We have the same rule for podcast guests.
Well,
you made the cut.
But joking aside, I think there is a lot as well that we can take and learn from PE, right? There's a really strong focus on driving operational improvements, execution, bringing the right people in. All of which are super helpful for early stage startups as well.
Yeah. What does Impact Shakers look like in 5 years? What's the roadmap? Do you even see 5 years down the road, or is that like just in this kind of crazy accelerated AI-driven world that 5-year roadmaps are kind of?
We actually have we have 4-year plans. It's not quite not quite the 5-year plans, but it seems to have happened naturally. So the first 4 years of Impact Shakers were the ecosystem building. The last 4 years, 22 to 26, have been adding capital. So the microfund, the fund, we have a fundraising program, our angel program, and then the end goal is to build the impact economy, right? So the thing that comes next, that will be the focus next, will be the infrastructure that we need for us as an organization, for the ecosystem overall, and then for the impact economy. So where can we invest? Where can we contribute? Where can we collaborate to build critical infrastructure for the final kind of future that we actually want to live in? And then, maybe you guys can help with this. We're thinking about what we can do on the media side. I think there's lots of interesting stuff happening and lots of interest around at the moment in terms of the narratives and what we put out there in the world to actually describe that kind of future that we're working towards, right? And maybe if I'm lucky and there is some spare time somewhere, there's a sustainable and inclusive data center. Who knows?
In space, right? Elon Musk is launching them in space, solar powered.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be in space. I'm not sure the science works, but yeah.
Alina, maybe just for a sec, zooming in on AI, right? So what's your stance on AI when you're thinking of investing into AI startups who are also building and focusing on impact? Can you name like specific examples where you've already invested in such startups, or like what's your overall strategy on that?
So I think it goes both ways, right? There is impact for AI and there's AI for impact. So impact for AI, I already mentioned Fineria, which is optimizing GPUs. So this is one of the ways, and I think this is an exciting point in time as well, because this is an industry that is emerging, right? So we really have a chance here to do something right from the beginning for once. And we could build it sustainably and inclusive and in a way that actually benefits humanity if we fund and promote these kind of solutions as well, right? So this for me is impact for AI. And then you have AI for impact, which is accelerating the things that we're working on by using AI as a tool. So this is not building the kind of AI for AI's sake startups, but it is using it. We have a business in the UK, for example, that is called Early Bird AI, that have developed a set of tools for employment agencies to actually help free up their time from all of the admin and the onboarding and the questionnaires, using AI tools to then spend time with the humans to actually make sure that they get placed in jobs that are meaningful, that they can stay in, that's, where it works for both sides. So this for me is AI for impact, where actually you do something, you enable someone to do what they do better, faster, bigger scale using this amazing tool.
Yeah, sort of like to free up the time so that we can focus on more important things, right?
And this for me is the ideal scenario of how we build and use AI, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure we get a big enough say, but we're working on it.
I mean, and this has tremendous application across sectors. Like if it's done you can imagine it in government, right? Just freeing the bureaucrats' time by just simplifying processes. I mean, any business really is.
Climate, health, education, nature, across all of it, right?
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Any last ones?
No, I think we're good. Yeah. Or maybe we're gonna have probably a lot of startup founders looking to to build an impact startup, and also it's probably right that in Hamburg as well we have quite a few initiatives that focus on impact startups. For example, Impact Hub, where you guys also work, right? We have a incubator program from Koba Stiftung, Koba Startup. So for those who would be listening to this podcast, what's one advice, because it's not that easy, right, to make it out there when you're like building an impact startup and to communicate your vision and to get people to understand, right, that impact is very important and that you can build a sustainable, profitable business, but also with a focus on impact. So what would be like your number one advice that you would give to those founders?
It's maybe a bit meta, but be careful what advice you take.
Okay. Nice.
Because there's a lot
take that one.
There's a lot of people out there giving good advice, but also a lot of people giving bad advice, right? So figuring out the difference in what you listen to and what you don't.
Cool. We'll take that for an answer.
That's the best advice. All right. Thank you so much, Alina. It was a pleasure to have you, and
thank you.
Interesting conversation. So
likewise.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks. Amazing. Oh, that was fun. I follow you on LinkedIn. I like, by the way, how you showcase things happening across the impact scene and not just like self-promotional, right? It's like the top 5
startups to watch.
Yeah, the top 5 things to pay attention to. This fund launch, like application deadline is then. Like it's very, it's like giving back to the ecosystem. Yeah. It's very, it's not competitive. Like it feels more like if they win, we win, we all win, kind of thing, right? So I like that ethos. We do a lot of that.
Yeah. And so we have the Impact 50 that are being announced at
diverse founders,
Tech, but that's the applications are in.
Okay.
We got over 500 of them, so
nice.
That's pretty amazing. Cool. I think that's going to be a really nice first set of 50 that we highlight and shine the spotlight on. What else have we got coming up? We are testing our platform at the moment, which is going to be another contribution to the ecosystem, where we basically offer a platform for startups and programs to actually find each other, rather than having to read all of our newsletters for the ones that are coming up, right?
Yeah, super cool.
And this we're building through our nonprofit. So it's, again, I talked a bit about the infrastructure of the ecosystem, right? So it's a contribution to that, and how we actually get more collaboration and more alignment going between all of the different amazing people doing amazing things. So there are a few things, and we're still very actively investing as well. So any startups that actually fit our thesis, fit our criteria, and are looking for funding at that pre-seed seed stage.
So you're still deploying? Are you raising also? I mean, in parallel, you always kind of are.
Yeah.
But,
after fundraising is before fundraising, right? For startups and funds alike. But we actually did the final close on our first fund at the beginning of April. So that was a big milestone. We probably didn't take enough time to celebrate it.
Talk about
As so
this
often,
too.
Is the case.
Celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
We've
Just
been
kept
wanting
going,
to
right?
do it next
You
week
keep
to
going,
celebrate
man.
the launch
Yeah.
of the podcast, and we're already 3 episodes deep. Haven't stopped. It's like you gotta think, you gotta stop sometimes.
Alina, just maybe one last thing, because I just like realized that I don't know any other players who are active in the on the entire continent, basically, apart from Impact Shakers. We're focusing on Impact.
Impact investor with hubs here and there, but I personally look a lot at what they do. They're really good.
Yeah, they do cool stuff. They've just launched this the initiative for the Electro Union, the
Electro
UTV,
Bill,
the Electro
You
Union.
also joined that, right?
We joined that. That's quite. I think that's quite a cool one. Yeah, there are lots of funds that invest across Europe that do interesting things.
Does PE invest in impact per se?
There are some as well, but it tends to be a bit more. So at the early stage, you can be a generalist, right? At the PE stage, most become more sector focused. That it's energy or health or So I think it becomes a bit more specialized. But there is stuff out there.
Yeah, cool.
They probably don't call themselves impact anymore, though.
No, it smells bad, the label, or it's dated. It's not. It doesn't smell bad. It's dated.
Yeah.
Alina, do you have any connection to Kaba Startup from Kaba Stiftung here in Hamburg?
A little bit, yeah.
I was building an impact startup as well myself. We were building like a video platform which was helping film festivals and movie theaters basically to create accessible versions of movies. So it was inclusion tech sort of thing. And I was just like wondering, because like your experience and what you're doing, it would be so valuable to those folks who are right now doing their incubator program, because the entire focus is on impact, right? And that, I mean, we should get you somehow connected, because I feel like so many synergies can be can emerge out of that. So I will definitely maybe do a warm introduction or something, because it's super nice. I wish I knew you before I started my journey, because like all the learnings that you shared about like the impact, it's so it's not present in the communication and in media, and people still get a lot of. I mean, I understand, of course, that you are annoyed, when people are talking about like, okay, what's the difference between impact and business model, profitability and stuff, and how it can all work together. But that, my understanding is that, or like my impression, it's not communicated clearly enough, or not enough at all, right? And you should talk more about it, and
and also about different types of funding, because everyone is so focused on VC,
but
it's just
you have
like,
so many grants and
grants and angels and all sorts of innovative funding instruments, right? That can work for lots of so many innovative instruments, steward ownership instruments that do profit sharing. Like there's so much cool stuff out there. And if we look at it, so we look at roughly 2,000 businesses a year. We invest in 6 to 8. I mean, that's like less than 0.5%, right? So the chances of actually getting VC funding.
The flip side of that is that some startups, they look at the public funding mechanisms and they spend a lot of time on applications, and the process is pretty time consuming, and then you jump from one program to the next, and then you're almost.
But look at the average time it takes to raise a VC round now.
Yeah, it's also.
There are very, very few that close in less than 6 months. So 6 to 12 months. It's gotten so much longer. And we see it everywhere. And I'm not saying there are startups that should totally go for VC, right? I'm just saying it shouldn't be the one type of funding that everyone goes for. And then as a founder who's building a business that is not fundable by VC, you keep getting told that it's a bad business, when actually it's not a bad business, probably, right? It's just not a match with VC.
Not the right way,
And that's so I think there needs to be much more of that as well.
Absolutely.
There's a really cool organization called Considered Capital, and Yoncha actually did the first version of the program with Esme, who now runs it, a long time ago, and she basically developed a program and a guide for both the UK and Germany of all of the non VC types of funding that are available.
Pretty cool,
So there's some cool stuff out there.
I mean, it's especially relevant for us at Impossible Founders, because deep tech is also is it a VC case, or is it? I mean, these long-term capex intensive projects.
I met a startup Last year, at the Female Startup Retivo, they pitched in the semi-final at Waterkant. They found an angel who basically committed to financing them for the first 4 years.
Wow.
Super angel.
Wow.
Amazing.
An actual angel. Like
Right?
Yeah.
And then I mentioned this, and then they were like, "Yeah, and we have this startup, and this startup, and this startup," and they were all financed the same way. All like deep tech, material innovation stuff. That's you know.
It's a very rare model, right?
Same with the battery factory. Actually, there were 2 angels.
What's it called, that company? Can you? Oh, do you know?
Yes.
I kept wanting to. I was wondering if Kirill knew them, because Kirill knows all the fundraised.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you probably
That's-
wrote about
No,
them, right?
you're not you. Your agent
Yeah,
that
yeah, your
scrapes
agent, exactly.
scrapes the northern
Speaking
Germany.
of AI, exactly. Doing all the background work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. I was in Berlin for
Yeah.
Deep Tech Momentum, and I went to this meetup, and there was a guy who they're based in Berlin and Munich. They create custom satellites called Reflex Aerospace.
Yeah, okay. I guess I heard of them. Yeah,
150 employees.
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
solid business. And the first check that came in was a guy who had exited for 100 million to like sold to SpaceX or something, and then he's like came met in LA for some event, and then he's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And he put up like 5 million of his money as a first
Human connection, right?
It's
we
called
talked about, yeah.
Universal. With the
Universal.
so
with the
Univer
cell,
and then
okay.
Cell. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, in Kiel. And we're trying to also like broadly.
Kiel also has quite a distinctive startup ecosystem there. I mean, it's smaller than in Hamburg, but they're also being super active these days, right? Waterkant and
they're doing a lot. Yeah. And they're working quite hard on it.
So yeah, things are
definitely
moving.
Cool story as well. How they built the business and how VCs weren't involved.
How big is your team?
Our team, 8 people.
8 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have a couple of venture partners as well, but
A couple of agents.
and that as well. But we're working on. So if there is a house of AI now, I'm definitely up for joining some hackathons to build some more agents.
Yeah, well, the AI Beavers, they do a hackathon on June 6th.
On June 6th,
and I
yeah.
think it's going to be a rolling thing where they do one every couple of months.
Yeah.
But the last time was 400 people in Hamburg. Some
Very cool.
traveled from afar. And the winner is actually, I guess, it's AI for good, you could call it. It's they filter calls. Like, you know how it's becoming a phenomenon that AI voice preys on old people to get their money, scammers. So they coded that thing during the hackathon, and then the business doing well. Like they covered all over the media in Portugal, where she's from.
Very nice.
And I mean, maybe something to look at for you guys. But I'm sure they're like raising and stuff. So
Yeah, cool.
So yeah.